So I've gotten private messages from some of my friends who would like to know a little bit more about how to do meditation, how to meditate. So I'm making this video to try to give you a little bit of information so that you can start practicing mindfulness and meditation. So I'm here in Mungod, South India, and I'm sitting under my favorite tree. It's really nice and quiet out here, so we won't hear car horns and dogs barking. So you want to find a nice little place in your home or somewhere where you can be alone and not distracted. And when you first start to meditate, you have to make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do this every single day. And it's best if you can do it at the same time every day and create a pattern, create a habit in your meditation practice. So the first thing to do is to take this seated position. The best position, there's a list called the 7-point posture of Vairocana Buddha. And in the 7 points, you sit with your legs crossed. If you can sit with 1 foot on each thigh, that is the best posture to sit in. Or 1 foot on one thigh, or cross-legged like I am. Or you can sit in a chair, but make sure your feet are flat on the ground. The spine should be straight, but not tight. Your shoulders should be even, also not tight. Take your right hand and place it in your left hand with the thumbs barely touching, right underneath your navel. Then you want your head slightly tilted downward, your lips and teeth gently apart, the tongue resting on the soft palate, the eyes halfway closed. You can close them if you want. I found that when I first started meditating, it was easier to shut up by closing my eyes, but if you can have them halfway, the texts say hooded. The eyes should be hooded. Okay? So those 7 points again are your legs, how you cross them or how you're sitting. Your spine should be straight and not tight. The shoulders should be even, also not tight. The head should be tilted downward slightly, about 6 feet in front of you. Put your gaze 6 feet in front of you, space in front of you. The hands should be rested underneath the belly button like this. Then the lips and the teeth, they say, should be just hard enough to put a piece of a grain of rice through. So you're not sitting like a mouth breather like this, but you're sitting with the lips so they're not pursed and tight. Everything's just nice and relaxed, and the air can move in and out if it needs to. And then the eyes are slightly hooded. So when you start meditating, you're going to have a lot of thoughts. You might even sit, because we're so distracted, we are in such a habit of being distracted with things. I've got to go here, I've got to go there, I've got to think about this, I've got to think about that. And so we create a habit of busyness. And so the word for meditation in Tibetan, one of the words for meditation is gom. Gom, G-O-M is how it's usually transliterated. Gom literally means to habituate the mind, to become habituated. So what you're doing is you're creating a pattern. You're creating a habit of the way you think and the way you practice. So when you meditate, you want to start with focusing on the breath, and this is just a precursor. We're going to focus on the breath by placing our mind right here between the nostrils and just watch the air come in and out as we breathe. Now, there are a lot of meditation practices going around. There are a lot of teachers teaching meditation, and there's this mindfulness meditation. We've got to remember that mindfulness is not the end of the practice. It is the whole of the practice. There's no meditation that you're going to come across that isn't mindful. And mindfulness is keeping your awareness or keeping your attention on your object of meditation. So in this case, it's going to be the breath. Okay? So we're going to be mindful. And the Tibetan word dunangchen or denshechen means really to have an interest and on what it is that you're watching. So, usually when we sit and watch a movie or we read a book, we can keep our attention very, very, very still and without any other distractions on what we're watching or what we're reading. And so the practice here is to keep your attention, your donang, on your breath. If you focus the eyes on an outer object, if you focus the ears on outer sounds and so on, you're really, when you're using these external consciousnesses, you're just developing that external consciousness. And if meditation is going to really make transformation in your emotions, your depression, your anxieties, it should be focused on an inner object. And so focusing on the breath actually becomes an inner object. So the more you practice the attention on the breath, the more you're creating a habit of mind to be able to hold itself on an inner object. Okay? So we start by making sure that we've gone through the 7-point posture and release everything out. Now I'm going to teach this practice without the typical religious topics that usually go with it, like setting up an altar at home or reciting a prayer before you do meditation, because I think that that's not necessary to develop the mind as a non-Buddhist practitioner or as a non-religious practitioner. So if you want to say a small prayer to God or to the Buddhas or whatever, that is your choice. But I'm getting into the essence of how to do this practice. Okay? So as you're holding the attention here, thoughts are going to start coming up because we are in the habit of thinking. And there's nothing wrong with thinking. There's nothing wrong with these thoughts coming up as of yet, because we're becoming aware that they're there. Okay? The first time you sit down to meditate, you're probably going to be bored, and your mind is going to be racing, thinking, what am I doing? And you start thinking about your foot, or you start thinking about a grocery list, or whatever. And what you need to do is gently bring the mind back. I say gently. Bring the mind back. Once you recognize that you've been wandering with your thoughts, come back to the breath and hold yourself there. Don't judge yourself on how many times you've drifted off. Don't say that this was a terrible meditation or a good meditation. Even 2 seconds before you're in step, a few minutes later becomes stay consistent. So the more and more you practice, the more and more you habituate your mind to come back to the center, the better you'll be in the long run. You'll just keep developing this habit. When I first started meditating, I would sit down and my mind would race. And I'd get discouraged. And it took my teachers telling me that there's nothing wrong with it. This is becoming aware of it. So as you're aware of it, you can start placing your attention where it's supposed to be. And that's the point. That's the whole point of developing mindfulness. Okay? So I'm keeping track of time because these videos have a certain length that they in order to be uploaded. So we're going to do about, maybe 3 minutes. You can extend this on your own later on. So we'll start with just following the breath. As your mind starts to follow thoughts that arise, bring it right back to the breath. eyes, come out of the meditation. What I like to think of when I'm doing the breath meditation is I like to think of the crosshairs of my attention, like I was holding a sight on the end of a gun, placing my crosshairs there and trying to keep them steady on the object. In this case, the object is the breath, or it's right in between my nostrils. I feel the breath go in and out. And as my mind starts to wander with a thought, I bring my crosshairs back very gently. There's no judgment, no disappointment. Just continue to practice until you can hold your awareness, until you can hold your concentration. And this is a word that isn't talked about much in mindfulness circles, is we're developing concentration. So yes, you become mindful that your thoughts have wandered, because that's actually mindlessness, and you mindfully bring the mind back and continue your development of concentration. So when you hear the terms awareness and mindfulness, they can sometimes sound an awful lot alike. I think of awareness as you're wandering through the dark, and the dark is your mind prior to or during this meditation. You're flashing a flashlight and watching where the mind travels to, and mindfulness is placing the crosshairs on the object. So you find the object with awareness, and you hold the object steady with the crosshairs of your attention. So I hope this helps you as a precursor to the next meditations that I'm going to be posting from time to time.